So I did a little bit of research on you, and I know we talked before. You started off at what, 5, 6 years old playing the drums?
I started off around 6 years old playing the drums,
Yep.
And I continued to play the drums up until really I heard the Beatles in '64 on Ed Sullivan. And I actually played drums after that, but I started playing guitar. And at one point, drums fell off, and I just was completely engulfed with wanting to learn as much as I could.
And you were how old then in '64?
In '64, when I started playing guitar, I was probably 11.
Awesome. And that was it. That was the
That was a
turning
while
point.
ago.
That was a while ago. And that was the turning point. That day you said, I want to play the guitar?
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah?
I was still playing drums in my little hometown band, but I had my eye on wanting to play guitar, and it was just kind of a turn of events that turned me into a guitar player. The guys that were in my band at the time, when we were kids, at that time I had moved from Malden to Saugus.
Yep.
Went from the city to the country.
That's a big move.
Yeah,
the big move. Is that about 5 miles, 4 miles?
Yeah, but in the '60s, that's the country.
Right.
So they had a rival. There was a rival band. My guys quit, and they started playing with this band.
Wait, hold on. I got to stop you a second. You're 11?
I'm 11.
And you guys had a rival bands in town?
There was all kinds of bands in town.
I love it. Yeah. I love it.
So what happened was these guys had a gig behind Prince Pizza on Route 1, before they even had the comedy. This was a long, long time ago. And the guy that was the guitar player, that was originally the guitar player in my band when I was playing drums, had quit to play with this band, but he had a fight with his girlfriend, Sandy LaRosa. Now, they're 12 years old, these people, right? So his girlfriend didn't want him to go to the gig. She wanted to hang out with him or something. So he didn't show up. So I got a phone call, and they asked me if I would come down and substitute for him. And, I knew about 10 songs on the guitar, and there happened to be 10 songs that they knew. So they came and picked me up on my little cheap guitar, my little cheap amplifier, and we played in the back parking lot of Prince Pizza, and I played one set. We were supposed to do 3 sets, so that's like 30 songs.
Right.
So in between the break, they would teach me 10 more. And then the next break, they taught me 10 more. So I ended up doing the whole show. I think we got free pizza was the pay.
Yeah, that's good pay.
Just about what I make now. But after the gig, we had such a good time, and I guess it worked out that they asked me to join the band.
So the other kid got bumped out.
The other kid got bumped, but it was interesting because I had never even done a rehearsal in a band as a guitarist. So the first time I ever played guitar with a band was at a paid gig.
Get out of here.
Yeah, true story.
I think what's pretty amazing about that is that you could learn 10 songs between each set.
Well,
even if they were basic songs at 11, 12 years old, that's pretty incredible.
I think when you're young, though, your absorption rate is much quicker.
Yeah.
I think as you get older, you learn things exponentially slower than you do as when you're a kid. You know, like your Wonder Bread years, like around 12 to 17.
Yep.
You just absorb things like a sponge, and it's like the more you know, then it gets harder to get to that next level.
Like you almost get in your way sometimes.
Yeah, or it's just you learn. Everything is new when you're first learning, so you're learning a lot.
Yep.
And then when you're trying to learn more and more techniques, after you've absorbed all these other techniques, it's harder to get up other steps.
Makes sense. Did you ever take lessons when you were a kid?
I took drum lessons when I was a kid. And matter of fact, my dad went to school with this world-renowned jazz drummer. His name was Alan Dawson. Played with everybody, Illinois Jacquet, and just all the big jazz names he played with. And he was a professor at Berkeley, but he was on the track team with my dad when they went to school. And I had to audition for the guy as a drummer. And at the time, I probably was only 8 years old or something like that. And I took a few lessons from Alan. But when I switched to guitar, I was completely self-taught.
That's it.
I never took any lessons.
You hear that from so many, guitarists that are the biggest guitarists in the world, and you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, well, I don't advocate it. I think having an education and having theory and knowing. I mean, I did go to Berkeley for a semester. I dropped out. I didn't go to my guitar lessons, but mainly what I wanted to go for was arranging and composition and ear training. Yeah, because that's the most valuable. If you have big ears, if you hear things, it's you can usually find them. Like I consider myself.
Meaning what? What do you mean by that?
Well, in other words, you hear these chord clusters, or you hear these melodies, or you hear these harmonies. If you can, hear inside the music, and then you can tell what the intervals are, and
kind of dissect it by hearing it the right way.
By hearing it, yeah.
So interesting, right?
Instead of reading it, which is not, like I said, I don't advocate not having theory and knowledge and education about
Yep.
it, but that's just the way I learned. And, there could be an argument said that, if I had gone to school to learn all the correct way to do things,
Yep.
I might not have been the creative person I am, because there's a lot of things that I do. For example, my chord melody style is definitely unorthodox. It's
Yeah.
not the traditional way. Matter of fact, the way I play some of my chord melody is technically wrong, but it sounds good.
Yeah.
So I don't really care if it's right or wrong. I just care if it sounds good.
Is it wrong then?
Well,
if
I
it
don't know.
sounds great
If
and
it's
everyone-
wrong, I don't want to be right.
No, seriously, like if everybody's feeling it and it's great music,
Right.
How's
It
that
works.
wrong?
It works.
It's just different. It's just a different way of doing it.
It works. Yeah.
So, all right, so you're a teenager, right? You now get the gig with this band.
yeah.
How do you? What happens? What happens next? You said you went to Berkeley, but there's a good
Well,
7-8 years in
when
between.
I was first learning guitar, Mike, I actually, as a child, I had a spine condition called scoliosis.
Yep.
So when I first started playing guitar in the band, like actually right after that Prince Pizza gig, when I joined this band, I had to go into a full body cast. I went to Children's Hospital, and they wrapped me like an arm cast, but underneath my chin, all the way down past my pelvis bone, cut out like a muscle T-shirt.
Yeah.
Whole body wrapped in plaster. Now, at that time, at probably 12 years old, I'm sure I didn't even weigh 90 pounds.
Yeah.
And that cast probably weighed 40, 35, And that's really when I concentrated on, spent a lot of time playing guitar in the
bet.
house, because you don't really get a lot of dates with a full body cast.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to go out.
But the cool thing about it, the adversity of trying to play guitar when you can't see the neck because your head is at this position and your peripheral vision, as soon as you get to here, you can't see anything.
Right.
So I had to learn everything by just feel and touch. And most of the time, 85% of the time when I play, I'm not looking at the guitar. And when I do look at it, it's usually when I mess up.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Because when you learned, you just weren't looking
I
at
just
it at
did
all.
it by instinct. So now when I look at it and I see my hands, sometimes they look so odd.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's like, well, this can't be right.
Right, but it feels right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
So that's and then after the body cast, which I was in for 14 months.
14 months?
Yeah.
Would they have to change it out like everyone?
No, I was in it for 14 months.
Just one body cast?
Yeah, and it's funny because I went into it in the summer, at the end of the summer.
Yep.
So when I came out of it a year plus later, all my skin was peeled because my tan had, all the dead skin was like, ugh,
Oh,
gross.
man, yeah.
And then I went into a full body brace for 2+ years after that.
A brace that would go on and off type of thing? 'Cause
It
I
would
remember I had
only
a
come
friend that
off
would-
in the last 6 months of wearing it, but
Yeah.
for almost 2 years, it was on 24/7.
Wow. Did that straighten out your spine? Because that's curvature of the spine,
Yeah,
right?
it's curvature of the spine, and it doesn't really straighten out your spine. It just tries to arrest the development of it getting worse. And basically, what scoliosis is, it's not the bones that are bad. It's the muscles developing at different rates on each side of your body.
Right, so then it forces it in
So
different
one,
directions.
it's pulling on this side, it's pulling on that side, as opposed to developing at the same time. So the strength of the muscles is pulling on your spine equally.
Wow. Wow. I mean, one thing I'll say about that is almost everyone I've talked to that's done some pretty amazing shit has gone through adversity. You know what I mean? That's certainly challenging as a kid.
Right.
Because
Yeah, it was challenging.
And I think part of that, from what I've seen, is it can then put things in perspective moving forward. You know what I mean? It's like, well, that really sucked.
Yeah, well, I also think
know?
that when you're a kid, just like we were talking about absorbing things, quickly when you're learning something, I think also when you're a kid, it's just things you should get accepted and you get resilient
Yeah.
about it. And you're just like, okay. Like I never felt self-conscious about it. I never felt self-conscious walking around or like that. I used to do gigs with a full body cast, and the only thing that was wrong is it was painful because having the weight of the guitar on your shoulder
Oh, I bet.
and the weight of the cast on your pelvis,
Yep.
man, it would be burning sensation going right down my legs.
Wow.
I mean, I can still recall how bad that felt, but yeah, it was something.
After you got through those few years, have you still struggled with pain?
Yeah, it's pain management now. I've
It's just
never
pain.
really gone through a pain-free. Well, actually, the only pain-free day I had was when I went in for a procedure in the hospital recently, and they gave me that Michael Jackson drug.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like I came out, and my wife was driving me home, and I said, "Man, my neck feels great. My back." wow, this is like being on vacation. I mean, vacation to me is not Tahiti. Vacation for
Right.
me is 2 weeks of no pay.
Yeah, that's
that would
amazing.
be vacation.
Yeah. How long did that last after your procedure? Like hours?
Not
or?
long enough.
Yeah, not long enough. Not long enough. But you learn to deal with it, you know, and that's just part of life.